Hi, so I want to talk about Phantom Limb by Lucinda Berry. And this is a story that I went into blind. And okay, this is my, I don't know, third Lucinda Berry book. I liked The Perfect Child because of the infuriating kid. It was so effective. I was really debating on. I mean, you really have to consider the amount of patience you need to have for kids, like normal, non abused kids, and what more for abused kids, right? And then Saving Noah is also interesting for me because there's the perspective of the mother who is like trying to figure out how she can help her pedophilic son. So it's a very interesting topic, right? And then I read Phantom Limb, and I think this is a book that came before Saving Noah. So this is perhaps one of her earlier works. And okay, I got some griping to do about this book. Okay, first of all, the story is so interesting to me already because the concept of twins. I love twins in books. Okay, one of my favorite twins books is Her Fearful Symmetry by Audrey Niffenegger. I love that book. Okay, very well written. I love the magical realism, speculative. Oh yeah, I think more on speculative fiction spin. Okay, so now I have twins here, and then they were both abused while they were children. And okay, I have to give it to Lucinda Berry because I think she really paints a very vivid picture of what the abuse looks like. For information purposes. And actually, the rest of the book has a lot of information about like they're okay. The main character gets institutionalized for a reason. Okay, and okay, that's one of the twins, and in there are like all the different people who with the mental disorders, psychological disruptions, if you like that term better, and they yeah, Lucinda Berry paints a very what do you call this textbook picture basically of what a mental disorder look like these characters look like caricatures of their mental disorder that they're trying to portray, which I guess maybe that's why I didn't like it a bit because it felt so flat in that sense. And also there was like some okay, I can't help but gripe immediately. There are just some things that did not make sense about this book. Okay, all right, so I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna go go into spoilers. Okay, so we have twins. They die. I mean, not they die. One of them, one of them is not doing well. Okay, one is depressed. The other one is able to move on with. I mean, get on with her life. So she goes to school and all that, and then she does part-time work. And then in work, she meets this guy, and she falls for this guy, and she's so happy that she met this guy because well, she has never imagined herself being so close to someone else except for her sister, her twin sister. And she has kept this from her twin sister because the twin sister might find it, she might get angry that she has a boyfriend. The other twin has a boyfriend. Okay, let's put the names, okay? Elizabeth and Emily. Okay, so Elizabeth is the outgoing one, Emily's the one staying at home, and Emily's the one doing the cutting. Yeah, she cuts herself. Elizabeth can't get herself to cut her skin. I think the most that she has ever done was to try pills, but that made her really sick, so she has never even tried it. Like, yeah, they were both able to adjust properly because, I mean, would I say properly? Yeah, relatively properly, because they had each other. So they were able to survive the repercussions of the abuse that they have gotten in the hands of their mother and of their mother's friends, male friends who play with them. Do with that information what you will. Okay, do what you will with that information. Yes. And okay, so that's the story. And then finally she gives this Thomas guy, the boyfriend, a chance. Okay, fine, I'll tell my sister Emily about you. And then Thomas was so happy because finally he will be able to meet the most important person in Elizabeth's life. So Elizabeth brings this up to Emily, and Emily wasn't really, I mean, she was like, you have a boyfriend? Why didn't you tell me? She was kind of like that. But then she was like, okay, fine, I'll meet him. And then Elizabeth was like, okay, that's good. This conversation went better than I expected. That's what she thought. And then later on, she finds out that actually Emily has already met with Thomas and told Thomas things about her. Like she called her like a crazy biatch, and you wouldn't want to meet the real Elizabeth. Stay away from her. Now that's what she said, and that was according to Thomas because Thomas said, "Hey, I met your sister," and yeah. And then Elizabeth was like, "What did she tell you?" And then Thomas at first wouldn't say, but then Thomas told her that yeah, she said you were crazy, and that I should stay away from you. And so obviously Elizabeth was like, "How could Emily do this? I have never told anyone like a single bad thing about her." And also Elizabeth keeps Emily's secret, and Emily's secret is she wants to keep her cutting and self harm a secret. So no one knows that but her sister Elizabeth. So she confronts Elizabeth. And then there's always this conversation they have about Emily groaning and moaning, telling Elizabeth that, oh, Elizabeth, your life might be better if I wasn't here to bring you down or, stop you from growing. She's always having that conversation starter for Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is so sick of it. Like she gets so tired and frustrated whenever she hears that from her sister. So anyway, she confronts Emily like, "Why did you tell this to Thomas?" And then, "I can't believe you. I've never said anything like that. I felt so betrayed, blah blah blah." And then Emily just ran off, closed the room, and Elizabeth was fighting her feelings to chase Emily and stop her from doing things. Like she went to the bathroom for a long time, and obviously, like Elizabeth knows what she is probably doing in there, but she didn't stop her this time. Like, go ahead. But Elizabeth wasn't worried because she said that Emily doesn't try to attempt to actually kill herself because it's more of a cry for help, or yeah, so that Elizabeth would comfort her. So that's what Elizabeth was thinking. But this time it was serious. When she opened the door, alas, Emily was successful this time. Like there was no pulse. And then she blacked out, and then the next chapter she wakes up in the psychiatric ward. First at the hospital, and then she moves to the psychiatric ward. Okay, so and then blah blah blah. She meets the people in the psychiatric ward, and okay, here's where I start to have problems. Okay, she said that, I mean, she was so angry because the people in this, like the psychologists and all the other experts, the doctors in that place, are telling, I mean, they told her that her sister has been dead for 2 years. But in her perspective, it only felt like it was last night or something, like, or was it a week ago that the event happened? And actually, yes, indeed, the event did happen just a week ago. But then there's a reveal in the book, okay, that actually her sister has been dead for 2 years. And she has been conjuring her sister up in her brain herself. Okay? So this is now where I start to think, okay, at the beginning of the. So you're telling me the sister was not there ever since she moved out of her parents' house. So what was that about? Like the thing at the beginning where the neighbor said to her, like, "Oh, your sister is such a homebody," or something like, you should tell her to get out more often. So why would the neighbor say that? Why would the neighbor have like an idea that you have a sister if she has not seen you with someone else? Unless, okay, the only thing that I can infer to cover that plot hole is this woman was also a figment of her imagination, which. Okay, and then another thing is with Thomas, the boyfriend. So eventually, she talks to Elizabeth, talks to Thomas, and then Thomas was like, I sort of got a clue. Like she knew that nothing happened between. I mean, nothing sexual has ever happened to her and Thomas because Thomas is this like very religious guy, and he likes to wait until marriage and all that. And then he so Thomas reveals that they actually did do it already, and Elizabeth does not have memory of this. And then Thomas sort of found this weird, but also, okay, here's where I got so confused, because Thomas said that he just plays along whenever Elizabeth is saying these things about, maybe when Elizabeth forgets things. Okay, so that's one of the things about her dissociative disorder, is that she loses time. So she find herself in one place, and then for some reason, like, she just it's just a blur. That was written really well, though. That part, it's just a blur, and then suddenly she finds herself zoning out of a place, and then she finds herself, for instance, from her room, she is then in the cafeteria talking with her friend. Like, she can't explain it. But anyway, when that happens, so Thomas says he just plays along when that happens. So now I'm thinking, okay, so you said, okay, the main reason why the sister Emily killed herself in the first place is because you guys fought, because Emily does not approve of Thomas and told Thomas to stay away from you. And we know this not because Elizabeth recounted the story, but because when Elizabeth asked Thomas, Thomas said, "This is what your sister told me." Okay, so now I'm thinking, did Elizabeth just think that up? Did she just conjure up in her brain that, according to Thomas, this is what Emily said? And Thomas actually didn't say anything like that. Or, like, I can't believe that a boyfriend would actually say that, "Oh, you know what? Your sister said you're a crazy biatch and I should stay away from you." Like, I can't imagine him making that up and then just telling her, the telling the girlfriend that. So that's kind of weird. And also, if he will make that up, like, because he, according to him, he was accosted by Emily. So who would be accosting him? Was that thing that he told Elizabeth about Emily saying those things, was that just him playing along? Because if he was playing along in that sense, that is such a bad game to play. Like, why couldn't have Thomas instead said, "Hey, you know what? Your sister approves of us. She saw me and she said that, yeah, I can go out with you." Like, why didn't he say anything positive? So maybe I am leaning towards the idea that the sister, I mean, Elizabeth, did just conjure that up. Okay, anyway, so yeah, that part started to make me feel unconvinced. And you know me, when I get unconvinced, like, it's not working. And then what made it even worse? Okay, what made it even worse is that towards the end, there's another twist. Okay, and then she remembers that, okay, so apparently, so when she saw her sister cutting herself in the bathroom, that was actually her doing the deed and not her sister, because her sister has already died 2 years prior, right? So she was thinking that she was her sister, she was acting as her sister. And then towards the end, we find out that this is how her sister died. Okay, they came from like, she remembered this is what happened. They came home from a party, and then sorry, the sister. Okay, so here's the twist. Let me just tell you the twist, because, like, don't even waste your time reading this book. I'll tell you now that the twist. The twist is, the main character, who is currently alive and in the psychiatric ward, who is a narrator and all that, it is actually Emily. So Elizabeth was the real twin that died 2 years prior. But people believe that the current twin that they're looking at is so confusing, right? Okay, let me just explain. What happened was, when they got into an accident, Elizabeth died. And then for some reason, when the police found them, she said that she was Elizabeth. So instead of saying that I'm Emily, she said I'm Elizabeth. And since they were twins and no one really knows them that well, and they look extremely alike, nobody could tell the difference. The only difference really is the cuts. But only Elizabeth knows that Emily cuts, right? So the only way that she learned that she remembered that she's not actually Elizabeth and she's actually Emily, was when she looked in the mirror, and then she saw that she has tons of scars in her legs. Yeah, the events going towards that, like seeing what's actually in the mirror. It was in that scene where she has this anorexic friend, and the anorexic friend sees tons of fat in her body, but actually she's super skinny. So in this, Elizabeth was like wondering why Rose, the anorexic friend, why was she seeing fat in her body when she is actually really thin? How could she not see the truth right in front of her eyes? Like why, like, body dysmorphia. And then she looks at her body and then she sees, hey, those legs are Emily's legs. And oh yeah, I remember now. I'm Emily, and my twin sister Elizabeth was dead, and I have assumed her identity. Okay, that's the plot that I really hated. Why would you assume your sister's identity? I mean, there are parts of her where she felt like she was kind of jealous of Elizabeth because when they were young, the mother was like always, you should be just like your sister. But in the sense that Elizabeth doesn't cry a lot and Emily cries a lot, but Emily is the obvious favorite child. If you could say favorite child. Well, she's the more preferred one. Yeah. So that's why this book did not make any sense to me. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, from a perspective of like the psychological definitions, like it I'm sure it's pretty accurate. That talks about the DSM and the criteria seems to be correct. Of course, I can't really tell because I'm not a full-fledged psychologist. But the way that it's telling the story, it's like showing a case of a particular person, and that's what it felt like. It felt like a case. It did not feel like some character that you would connect with and feel deeply about, but rather just an example of a disorder. But then, oh, those are the other characters in the psych ward mostly, and what happens in the psych ward, like an idea of what happens in the psych ward. But yeah, just like the multiple twists that did not make sense to me. Yeah. I am left out of breath. Okay, so anyway, that is it for this video. It's quite long, it's spoilery, it's more of a discussion. If you've read this book and you liked it, go ahead. No problem with that. I mean, go ahead. It's like, go ahead, like that book, whatever. Like, I mean, of course. I don't know how the book might have affected you, but for me, those are just my complaints. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But I can see how some of these parts might connect with another person. Okay, that is all. Thank you.